And welcome everybody once again to a Safe Place podcast, and we're here today with my brother Ryan and a lady that I got in touch with over the phone, didn't I, initially? Emma Palmer. So thank you for turning up. Thank you for being our first guest, and give us a description about what it is that you do, Emma.
Okay, so I'm a tarot card reader, which is I'm a tarot card reader, and
Yes.
I offer advice really to people when they've got a particular problem.
Yeah.
I get phone calls from the general public, people who live locally to me, who are after sort of insights really on the problems that they have. Sometimes people come for entertainment, which I don't really like doing very much, but it's mostly about people's issues and concerns.
Okay. So what are some of these issues and concerns that you get with your average person that comes into contact with you, Emma?
Okay, my average person is usually a lady
Yes.
of a certain age who they tend to come about relationships.
Yes.
And the reason for that, I suppose, is because there's nothing in life that matters so much as the things that, affect our heart, as it were.
That's right, yeah.
So I do sort of find that it's 80% of the time it's about relationships, but also that extends to families and friendships and so on. But yeah, they come mostly about love. And people get very, very upset because they've broken up with somebody, or else they're just looking for answers to why is this happening to me again, and so on and so forth. So I find that I counsel people as much as I look at the cards, because everybody wants to know the future.
Yeah.
What do I try to do is get people to understand what they're doing now,
Yes.
and if they can make changes to what they're doing now, then to take personal responsibility and also change their future too.
I get that 100%, and it is about trying to, as you say, people are looking towards the future. They're desperate to desire a nice moment in time in the foreseeable future. But as you rightly say, it's a nice place to work from the here and now, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So, and it's probably all of our struggles in life is the idea of feeling that sense of love. And then when we don't feel it, a lot of suffering comes as a result of that, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. Yeah, it's nothing that hurts people so
No,
much as love. That's what I've found anyway.
Yeah, I feel like the more you think about the future, the more upsetting it can be, because things aren't working the way that they want.
Yeah.
Me personally, I'm in about the feeling, so it's more the present and what you're feeling at that time.
Yeah.
Take each day as it comes, and
Absolutely.
just hope for the best. That's what I think. It's
And primarily because it's a mental health podcast, we're here sending out this message is to try and find and help people see things in a way that makes them go into that area of love more, to alleviate from the suffering. And a lot of people that can, so straight away, you said you're a tarot card reader, and people instantly have their judgments or beliefs based on it is what you do.
That's right.
And in a sense, we don't care what it is that you do. The only thing that is important is the message of, do you alleviate suffering for some people when they come towards you?
I'd like to think so. I mean, I've had some great feedback from people, and I get repeat business, and sometimes I recommend their friends. I think on the odd occasion that it doesn't work out is where people come with an expectation that if when they walk through the door, I'm literally downloading information about them. And it's not like that.
Yeah.
Not when you sort of, this idea of being a psychic. I've tried to come away from that. So I describe myself as a tarot reader counsellor rather than a psychic.
Okay.
Because I think that it's not giving, it sounds like I've got an ability that other people don't have.
Yeah.
And I think that actually what I want people to do is not sort of think, oh, well, if the tarot cards reader says it's going to be fine, then I don't need to do anything.
Yeah.
I think what's really important is people take personal responsibility for their own issues
Yes.
if they can.
so what is it? Is it the work? Is it the tarot cards, or is it the reader?
It's both.
Okay.
It's an extraordinary thing because although I'm quite pragmatic and I'm not in any way, I think I'm less woo than a lot of people are in this industry. Hopefully, quite down to earth about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there is a strangeness that I can't describe about how the cards work out.
Yes.
They generally are pretty spot on. And I don't know how that works. I mean, I've looked into it and I'm thinking, is it because all cards are relevant to us at some point or another? But they do seem to be pretty accurate. And that is the strangest thing. But obviously, not everybody can just pick up a deck and start doing it. I've been doing this since I was a teenager. So it's a long time ago.
And what got you
years.
into it, Emma? When did it all begin? Tell us the story about when it all began.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I was always interested, even from a child. I was really, really fascinated by all things psychic and really fascinated. There's nobody in my family that has that interest either. So it's not like it's a passed down thing.
And how was the family with you when you was this child growing up that started to go towards the psychic?
Yeah, fine, actually.
Were they
Yeah, yeah.
encouraging and loving through that
I
process?
think they were didn't bother them. I was brought up in a Catholic family, but it wasn't frowned upon or anything like that. I've had much more sort of criticism from people outside, but my own family was fine about it. And so I was about 14, and I bought a deck of my first deck of tarot cards from a joke shop, which kind of sums it up for the attitudes at that time. And since then, I've bought more decks. And as soon as people know that you've got tarot cards, oh, do me a reading. Yeah. What does it say? And all this. So, I've been practicing for a long, long time, but I haven't actually been self-employed doing this until relatively recently, about 10 years or so.
Yeah.
And I've sort of fitted that in with other jobs, and now I just do it full-time.
And this is something that fills you with a sense of meaning and purpose now.
Yeah.
It gets you up in the morning, something to really look forward to.
It is. I mean, I enjoy teaching it as well. So I teach how to read tarot cards.
Okay.
But at the same time, if anything, I actually prefer the teaching. I love that because you get such a good energy, if you like, in the room. But what I want to impress upon people, I'm quite, I don't want to say fussy, but I do select the people I want to read for. I don't want people who are just after a bit of fairground fun, because that's not me.
No.
They will be disappointed. It's a waste of money.
Yeah.
And sometimes you do get people who come back again and again and again. And after a while, it's like, no, leave it 6 months, please, because otherwise I'm just taking money for, and there's nothing to say, you know, until they take responsibility for their own issues.
I've got you.
So I try not to be hard on people. I think I'm quite caring, but at the same time, I do try to get across.
Absolutely. There's an understanding there that has to be met on the person or the client that comes to see you,
Yes.
hasn't there?
Definitely.
So in terms of everything that you do, talk us through the process. Say that if you were seeing me now as a client, and I came to you looking for a sense of alleviation from a sense of suffering that I'm having in my life. Usually say, as you say, relationships, that sense of love that I'm craving.
Right.
What would be the first area that you'd look at with me?
So the very first thing that I do, and this is going more towards the psychic-y thing, is actually I don't ask for any information to begin.
Yeah.
What I do is I will shuffle the cards, and I get the person to shuffle the cards as well. Then I put them out, and I'll do a general spread, and it allows me to kind of tune into that person and to get into it. Yeah. And pretty soon you start to get a flavour of what's going on for them. But people will always sort of, interact. And then after I've done the general spread, I will then move on to questions. So if somebody's got a specific question about love, relationships, why can't I find love, and that sort of thing, then we'll look at that in more detail and really hone in on it. So I take quite a structured approach to it, and I like questions, and I like interaction from the other person. I think if they just sit there with their arms folded, I've had that before, it's not great, because they're actually literally blocking themselves.
A huge amount of resistance, and literally gets in the way of actually that beautiful natural process taking place, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So can it come down to the point where it's showing a person where they're struggling to find love?
Yes, it can. I mean, because I do look for advice cards, and sometimes you see something, it might be like, oh gosh, this is a bit awkward. How am I going to put this to them? Yeah. And it might be because, well, I'll give you an example. There was quite a few times you get somebody who'll come and she'll say, why don't I meet anybody? I want to meet someone. So we'll go through, where do you work? I mean, maybe she's in an all-female office and doesn't get out. Yeah. She doesn't really have much of a social life. She doesn't go out. And then she will also, I said, have you tried online? Oh, no, I don't do that sort of thing. No. And so you think, okay.
So they're not even, in a sense, conscious of how they're restricting the possibility of love taking place, are they? Outside of the tarot cards, in a sense.
Exactly.
So you're talking them through a little bit of process and making them logically rationalise actually what they're doing without ever being aware of it themselves. I've got you.
And I think there's something quite interesting that sometimes there's another angle on this too. Maybe she actually doesn't actually want it.
Well said,
And that's the thing that you have to be sort of mindful of, is that somebody comes to you with a question. It's not always the question they want to ask.
Yeah.
It can often be something quite different. And I've had other scenarios where people ask all sorts of things, and the reading's not going anywhere. And then 5 minutes before the end of the time we're supposed to be together, bang, in comes the big one. And you think, oh God, I wish you'd said this at the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that we could have looked at it. But
and you're right, what you say. I mean, as a counsellor, what I see is that somebody, I think innately within us all, we want connection and love, don't we?
Yes.
And somebody that's unconsciously sabotaging that, it's usually they've been through some sort of pain. And that unconscious emotional self is actually getting in the way of them risking and being vulnerable again, enough to usually be hurt again, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So this is one of the big parts that I find really, really important in tarot, is not necessarily, people want to know what the future is. We all want to know what's around the corner. Yeah. But more importantly, let's look at what happened. And I always do a bit of the past to see what created these difficulties. And you can sometimes see it in terms of families, or maybe it was a poor relationship with males in the family or something like that that's causing a relationship difficulty.
Just listening to you today, it surprises myself as well, because I just associated you as a tarot card reader. And I don't really know much about that. And it's lovely having you in to explain what that is. But it's also really nice to hear how many counselling skills that you are offering to somebody, how you've taken somebody into their present and looking at how the past may affect the present, which are really valuable skills in helping people move forwards in their life, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. And I call it like tarot coaching, but nobody's interested in that. But I think counselling is better, which is why I advertise myself as a counsellor rather than anything else. But using the cards, I don't have any formal qualifications, it has to be said. But at the same time, when you've been around the block a few times, you've got a few grey hairs.
You've got your life experience.
It makes a really big difference.
Is there a specific amount of cards that you basically put down, or can they just keep going until you find a solution?
Sometimes you don't find it with somebody. I mean, sometimes it's literally, rarely. Yeah. The cards are just, they don't say anything. And I'll tell you, this is actually quite interesting. I'm going to digress a little bit. Yeah. Is that towards the back end of last year, September through to about January, the cards were like for literally everybody I was reading for was nothing for 2020 until around about September, October. Yeah. And it was just kind of weird. I'm thinking, what? And then, of course, the virus came. Yeah. And I thought, right, okay, that's why everybody's cards were saying nothing for the first 9 months of this year. Isn't that strange? So I'm sort of thinking maybe September, October, life's going to be much more normal as we understand it than it has been. So
it's fascinating to say that the cards, in a sense, everyone that you were seeing, there was not much coming up through the cards.
Yeah.
Which very again, if it is strange, and you'd think to yourself, I mean, it's hard to understand what that would mean. Would it mean something negative is coming or something positive?
I didn't really notice the trend at the time. I was aware of it, but I think it wasn't until we all got sort of locked down. I thought, okay, this is what it was leading to. But what's interesting is that life does pick up again, and I've noticed that in the readings I'm doing now, because I'm doing everything online now. Yes. Not face to face. Everything now is going forward, looking really good, particularly for next year. So that's good news, folks. Yeah, it is, in terms of the tarot cards,
So again, going back to what this podcast is, a Safe Place podcast, which is all about we don't care what people's beliefs are. Yeah. All we care about is if something works for them. Yeah. That's fundamentally the most important thing. Sure. So talk to us, give us, if you've got any stories that you could say, Emma, in terms of some of the things that you've seen that have changed people's lives, where you've seen a lift in their energy through what they've experienced with your interaction.
Yeah. There's one lady that springs to mind. She had a very traumatic birth with her first daughter, eldest daughter, and so traumatic that she didn't want to go through that again, childbirth, but she wanted another child desperately. So I was able to help her. I mean, I did, I counselled her quite a lot and so on. I am not an expert in midwifery, so I was able to put her in touch with somebody who is. Yeah. And it calmed her down. And then anyway, a bit later on, she tells me, I'm having a baby. I'm going to have another baby. And she kept me informed. And as soon as the baby was born, she texted me to say that I transformed her life, which is incredibly
It is.
Powerful. I mean, obviously, I did put her in touch with somebody else, but at the same time, I wasn't going to do an unethical thing by saying, you'll be fine, or doing whatever. When it comes to
a key word, what you just said there, unethical, and you did it in an ethical way. You pointed her in the right direction to a midwife, and you supported her through that process.
Yeah, I did, very much so. And she keeps coming back for reading, so she's obviously very delighted. But there are times where people do say things like, you know what, I feel so much better, or I'm going to sleep really well tonight, and that sort of thing. It just makes my day. It really does.
It's fascinating in the sense of when they come to you, there's a sense of being lost.
Yes.
Not knowing which direction to go in.
Yeah.
And you, in a sense, through the work that you do with the person that's suffering, is you're helping them find some direction again, some path through it, aren't you?
Yes, I think so. And, sometimes people are, again, with relationships and all, I really hate the predictive side of things, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I much prefer looking at what's happened, what's going on at the moment, and then trying to get people to shape their futures differently. Because, I think that's where it really sort of do add value, rather than saying, oh yeah, it'll all be fine, it'll all work out. And then people just sit back thinking that they don't need to make any effort. And you do.
Have you ever had anybody come in for more success with a business or in their profession?
Yes, I do get career questions. Yeah, certainly. Yeah. Sometimes I get people saying, "What shall I do?" Going, I don't like my job.
I don't know where to go.
Yeah, exactly. So, but then we start looking at their skills and what they're capable of doing. The cards. That's kind of a tricky one, to be honest. Okay. Of course, the cards are quite helpful.
Yeah.
But it really sometimes it more often than not it says, what do you want to do? What is your passion? Because everybody knows, in essence. Some people say, I don't know what it is I want to do with my life, but actually, you do.
Yeah.
And think about what you did when you were a kid that you loved doing. And they say, yeah, well, I love painting, but that doesn't mean to say I'm going to become an artist. I'm thinking, well, no, let's start looking at it laterally.
Yeah.
So then we sort of have a discussion around that, rather than sort of just me coming up with job titles for people.
Yeah.
So that's quite a tricky question, to be honest. Yeah.
And when we look at it, it's the idea of, so let's say somebody's come towards you or somebody's listening to this podcast now and they've instantly got this judgment or belief that it's not true.
Yeah.
And in a sense, that's irrelevant. Don't let that judgment or belief get in the way of you actually having an interaction with someone like yourself and actually finding some meaning and purpose once again in their lives.
Yeah.
Because our judgments and beliefs can directly work against our happiness and alleviation from suffering, can't
Yes. Yeah, we do. Sometimes people are a bit cynical. It's the arm folders that I referred to earlier. They want you to convince them that there's something in it.
Yeah.
But I'd really rather sort of deal with issues than whatever.
And it's empowering to tell them to prove to themselves there's something in it.
Yeah.
Come, have this interaction with myself. Let's see what we can learn, and then take that into your life, and let's see if you can prove to yourself that there's something in it.
Yeah.
Instead of hoping or depending someone can do that work for you in a sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
So tell us how people can get into contact with you then, Emma.
Well, I'm advertised on Google, the Google My Business sort of thing. And so I'm shown up as a tarot reader counsellor.
Yes.
I think that people can find me if they go Psychic Solihull. It'll still show.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm based in Solihull. But really it's open now to the whole country because I'm doing things online. So I do Zoom, WhatsApp and Skype, whatever suits people. And that works remarkably well because it's so convenient for both the customer and also myself. But so long as I can see their face, then I'm happy.
Yeah.
I've got a website as well, which is emmaspsychic.com. And that's going to be changed as well. No, it's not Emma Psychic. It's emmatarot.com. There
we go. We got there. It's hard on the spot sometimes to remember it, isn't it?
Because I changed it, you see. From the psychic thing. So, so I have a website, and I love doing training courses, but I think that doing that online is a little way away. So I might resume the courses again when we're free of this COVID.
So we'd like to say thank you very much for coming in today, and thank you for being our first guest.
Thank you.
We'd love to have you on again in the future.
Yep.
Maybe bring some cards in and we can interact in a sense and get an understanding of being in the direct process of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
So thanks again.
Oh, you're welcome. Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers. Pleasure.